at the crucial time while Ferguson burned.
Why were they kept away?
Now, my question is...
Do you know that to be a fact?
Well, we know that they were kept away because they did not come in and stop that from the get-go. They were deployed at other parts of the St. Louis region. In the city of St. Louis, Mayor Slay had them at a couple of different, a couple of dozen different locations, I'm told, maybe other parts of St. Louis County. Why were they not in there at the first sign of an overturned police car or a smashed police car window with a show of force that would have stopped this? And here's my question that the governor must answer. Is the reason that the National Guard was not in there because the Obama administration and the Holder Justice Department leaned on you to keep them out? I cannot imagine any other reason why the governor who mobilized the National Guard would not have them in there to stop this before it started.
Ferguson Mayor James Knowles also told Fox 2 last night that his requests for National Guard assistance as stores were being looted and burned to the ground were ignored.
Unfortunately, I know I've been on the phone in contact with the county executive's office. I know he has requested, I am requesting, have requested the National Guard troops to come out from the command post to help restore order along the business districts. We have not seen that. It's my understanding that the commanders out on the streets have requested this, and those calls have gone unheeded at this point. So at this point, unless we can get the current situation stabilized, right now it doesn't appear that there's any end in sight, and we need to have the governor step up, give us the resources that he's promised from the beginning. He stated that he would have a strong response, that the resources necessary would be provided. They have not been provided so far. We need that right now.
Why did the police and National Guard fail to protect businesses and stores that were known to be targets, having been looted back in August during the first wave of riots, such as Ferguson Market and Liqueur, which again was looted last night? And again, why did the rioters target black-owned businesses such as Juanita's Fashion Art Boutique, the largest boutique in St. Louis, which was located on West Florissant? Why did they target this poor woman's cake shop? Were they attempting to get justice for Mike Brown by burning down and looting businesses owned by black people? Did these two individuals think that the best way to get justice for Michael Brown was to steal the biggest TV they could find from a local rental store? But again, the major question being asked now in Ferguson, did the Obama administration give a stand-down order in an attempt, in their eyes, to prevent an escalation of violence in Ferguson, which actually only ended up provoking more unrest, which is worse than the worst night of rioting back in August, according to police? Here we see the National Guard stationed outside a shopping mall in Ferguson. Again, they were nowhere to be seen along West Florissant or any of the other areas where a dozen buildings were burned to the ground. Dozens of cars were set ablaze and many businesses were looted. No National Guard presence, no real police presence in the very areas where the unrest was most visible. So did the Obama administration order the National Guard to stand down in a misguided attempt to prevent an escalation of violence, a botched decision which only led to more unrest, looting, arson, and violence? And should Governor Jay Nixon now be forced to resign, as one former Ferguson mayor is calling for, as a result of his inaction during last night's civil unrest and rioting? Let me know what you think in the comments below. This is Paul Joseph Watson reporting for INFOWARS.com.
All right, welcome back. This is the live edition of the INFOWARS Nightly News. Now, if you're watching this streaming on YouTube, please remember to subscribe to our channel. And when we're talking about subscriptions, we have a free newsletter that is available on our website. If you go to the homepage, you'll see that in a box on the right. That's going to have special reports that you won't see on our website, things that you won't even see on our nightly news. You'll get that in that free newsletter. And this week, if you're thinking of trying out some of the InfoWarsLife.com products, we're going to be having some specials that those who are subscribing to the newsletter will get 24 hours advance notice, even more notice than they gave people about the release of the indictment. So that's something, you might want to check that out. Again, that's our InfoWars, it's the InfoWars Insider, and that's on our homepage over on the right. That's a free newsletter. And again, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube if you're not a subscriber. And if you're not a subscriber to Prison Planet TV, that helps to support our operation. You can share that subscription now with 20 other people to watch our broadcasts live every night. For these live editions and these special editions with things going on with Ferguson, we've done it in the past with the live election coverage. We will put it out occasionally for free on the YouTube stream. But of course, we're here every night at 7 o'clock with the InfoWars Nightly News, and you can watch that as it happens if you're a subscriber to Prison Planet TV, and you can support our operation. You will also have access, and all your friends, your 20 friends that you give your password to, you will have access to all of Alex Jones's documentaries as well as a Prison Planet TV subscriber. Well, Leanne, when I look at this, I think one of the saddest things that we see, besides the loss of life with Michael Brown, the person who died last night, the loss of livelihoods as we've seen these businesses go down, the saddest thing that I see in this is that, again, we've been broken into this false dichotomy, this thesis and antithesis. There's not any sense that I see coming out of the protesters there of a clear set of demands of what they want. And I think that's very different from what I saw at the Bundy Ranch. I think one of the things that was really wise was that Cliven Bundy came out with a list of concrete demands. Now, they didn't meet them. They didn't meet all of them. They did meet the demand of giving back the cattle, but his first demands were focused on the fact that they were violently encountering people in the community, that they were shutting off public lands, lands that people in that area had had access to for generations, since before it was a state, when people first settled that area, the ancestors of the people who were there. So they were concerned about that. They wanted those barricades taken down. They wanted people to have access to the public lands as they had always had access to it. They wanted the arms taken away from the Bureau of Land Management. He made those demands. He made them to the sheriff. He said to the sheriff, you as the chief law enforcement agent here, you have authority. These people from the federal government, this bureaucracy, the BLM, does not have legitimate authority here. So I want you to assume your proper legal mantle. I want you to take the arms away from these people. I want you to open up these areas to the people, and I want my cattle back. Now, he didn't say that he wanted his cattle back until he gave them those demands and gave them a timeline, and they didn't meet that deadline that he gave them, so he says, let's go get our cattle back. You have to have some concrete demands. They need to say, this is what we want to be the mission of our police. These are the rules of engagement that we want. It's not enough to stand out there and say, we're upset about the way we're treated. We want to be treated better.
David, speaking of engagement,
and now
looks like the cops have just gone into the crowd.
Okay, there we go. Now it's starting to, they're starting to mix it up, it looks like. The cops are going to get involved in the crowd. Tell us about what's going on there, Joe.
There's maybe 100 or so on the ground. Then you have a lot of these National Guard that are over here. They just started pushing out into the street. Everyone's in riot gear tonight for the most part. There's only a few who aren't. Those are the ones who are more than likely the high.
All right. So to recap, earlier in the night we saw protesters standing there. On one side we saw the National Guard, police. On another side, nothing was happening. Now the police are pushing their way into the crowd. Is that correct?
They're standing in the road now. So the National Guard's behind them on their property, and now the police have pushed out onto the sidewalks, facing off with the protesters over here.
So now they're kind of getting into their face. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. They're actually physically coming in contact with them, getting very close, or?
Not yet. They're standing on the side of the on this side of the road right here.
Okay.
It's kind of like a standoff. They're all over here, and then you have the protesters over here in this area.
Okay, well, I saw them going through the fence.
Yeah. You know, it's 8:10. It's riot
It's 8:10.
time.
There we go.
They know they've got that
right on cue.
Right.
It's it was actually 8:50. He said 8 o'clock, but it was actually 8:15 that he came out. So now here we are at 8:10. They're assuming the position. They're getting ready.
They're making the media push back out of the roadway in front of these guys. I don't know what's going to happen if they're going to essentially start pushing forward.
So there wasn't a problem, and so now it looks like they're going to start trying to provoke one, right? That's what it's looking like.
If they push forward, then yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they don't want the world. I mean, the world is still watching what's happening in Ferguson. They're watching for nightfall, so they don't want the world to see that they're just out there peacefully protesting. Still, they're still demanding justice. They're not happy with what happened.
Well, this is why we're going live tonight. We wanted to see what was going to happen. It looks like now as we're starting, things are starting to get nice and dark. Right about the right time, about 8 o'clock, they're starting. Like you said, it's riot time.
Right, it's riot time.
So I hope you guys are enjoying.
I mean, it was so obvious last night.
The funniest thing I saw today, as we were pulling up a brand new 2013 or 14 Corvette, pulled up in front of us to the parking lot. I'm sitting there thinking, who brings a Corvette to a riot? You're going to get targeted first off than anybody. We're going to see a red Corvette with no windows. They're all busted out, doing donuts in the road in a little bit.
Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully they can keep this contained. Now, I know some of the things that
I don't think so.
No, you feel it? You feel the energy?
Yeah, I'm starting to get that vibe again, like last night.
Yeah.
Well, when they see, I mean, we watched this months ago when this happened, that the police move in and they escalate the situation, and then they feel threatened, so the protesters kind of get a little louder, and it is this face-off.
Well, again, yesterday to say that they have a decision at noon, and then they're going to wait until 8 o'clock and just keep building it and building it and building it. I told Josh, I said, why don't they just make a gavel out of lights and drop it like the ball at Times Square, when it's time for the riots to begin.
Right.
It couldn't have been more orchestrated or set up to create a problem. And now it appears that they're not content to allow people to just stand there and voice their anger. They're going to now try to move people around, kettle them around, push them around, say, don't stand here, now stand over there. That's what it's going to take to mix this up. So we're with Jakari Jackson and Joe Biggs in Ferguson, Missouri. We're looking at live shots now. This is not last night. This is what's going on now. We're looking to see as apparently the tension's starting to build.
Helicopter coming in.
Here we go.
There was already an Apache helicopter that was up in the air earlier that had flown by. There's been police helicopters and then quite a few military helicopters. The protesters are starting to scream F the police, and they're taunting like they did last night. So usually when that happens, eventually, that's when the all hell breaks loose.
That's a shame.
Now, I know that some of the things that I was hearing with the protesters were asking for the police to all have cameras, that was one of their demands. They want all the police there to have to wear cameras, as well as they want them to have tasers. And that was one of the things that Darren Wilson said. I just didn't want to wear my taser that day because I don't like it. It's big and it's bulky, so he just chose not to have his taser. Same thing happened a couple weeks afterward when they shot that man in front of the convenience store who was saying, shoot me, and they were like, all right, we'll shoot you 6 times. And then when asked about it, they said, well, we didn't have access to less lethal force. They couldn't have just used their tasers because they didn't have them on them. So even when they have these things, they don't use them, and they just choose not to wear them because they're bulky.
Yeah.
I can't believe they're allowing vehicles to drive up and down this road. Last night at the beginning, they had these roads blocked off, but they're allowing vehicles to drive through this area. I mean, that is not a good idea.
Right. That's what I was wondering, because we were watching aerial shots earlier and there was no one in the streets. There really weren't even any protesters around. So we're thinking, well, why don't they just block off the streets? Are they just going to let everyone drive in and start rioting again? You can also watch this. They want this.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's obvious that this is what they want. Like you said, when you looked at the newspapers today, did you see anything about amnesty?
Nope.
I didn't see anything. All I saw was Drudge was just flooded with Ferguson.
Yeah, and people
of course,
are calling for the police.
Yeah, we have a state representative there in Missouri, a Democrat, a lady saying this is race war. That's what they would like to see. They want to keep this going. And you're talking about the demands that they had in terms of what they wanted the police to do in the face of these riots. To me, that's part of the problem, is that their demands were all focused on the riots. They didn't have any demands pulling